Good afternoon, good people. I kind of felt compelled to have to jump on here and just have a quick conversation, really, because there's been so many messages that I've had on social media concerning what I posted about my daughter this morning, and the fact that she was concerned about going to school this morning. Whoops. So what have I done? Sorry, she was concerned about going to school this morning because of the football last night. And I just thought, with the number of messages I was getting, I just wanted to maybe elaborate a little bit more, because obviously the post that I put up, which is very short, which is very, very to the point, do forgive me, because I was actually working. And I just thought, my phone kept going. There were so many messages on there. I thought, if I start to respond to everyone, I'm not going to get any work done. So I thought, let me just jump on here and have a quick conversation about the post, and I'll just give you the context and where it started from. So obviously last night, England were playing Italy. Like most people that live in England, regardless of their colour, unless they have a special, affiliation to Italy, we're supporting England. That includes us black people. So, my daughter is an absolute football fanatic. She can talk grown men under the table when it comes to football. Trust me, you can ask her uncles. They can't try her. So she was here in the living room watching her football. I was downstairs in the kitchen because I had some stuff that I needed to take care of, and I didn't want the TV on down there, so, I wasn't watching it. When England lost, Isabel came downstairs and she said, "Mum, I'm not going to school tomorrow." And I said, "What do you mean?" Sorry, my rug is twisted and it's giving me OCD. Yeah, so she said, "Mum, I'm not going to school tomorrow." In fact, I rephrased, her words to me were, "Mum, none of the black kids are going to school tomorrow. I'm not going." I said, "You're going to school, you have to go to school." And she said, "Well, how am I supposed to get on public transport?" And her exact words to me was, "Yeah, that's how people are going to walk past her and whisper monkey under their breath." And I kind of stopped then. And then she said to me, she came back and said, "Mum, I'm not going to school. None of the black kids are going." Now, I fell asleep in the couch. I didn't get up and go to my bed till about 4 a.m. Then I woke up again briefly. So I missed her. She did go to school. I get a message from her saying, "Mum, I'm going to have to take a cab or take an Uber," because she's connected to my Uber account. So she just orders Ubers more than she's supposed to anyway. And said, "Mum, I'm going to order an Uber because me and another black girl were at the bus stop and the bus driver just saw us and drove past. I'm late for school." And then she said, "Well, at least no one's called me a monkey yet." And here's the thing. The fact that my 14-year-old is expecting to be called a monkey today is a problem for me. It's a problem for me. The fact that there is an expectation to be racially abused is a problem for me. I went through this foolishness as a child in the 70s. When black people say that nothing has changed, and I've always said that the only thing that has changed is that the racism is repackaged, people don't want to understand. When people come out with, "Oh, I don't see colour, we're all the same." No, we are not. No, we are not. We should all be the same. We should all be treated the same. But the reality is we are not. Because if we were, how many white children felt, or how many, English children felt that they had to be extra vigilant and careful on their way to school today? They didn't, because it's not a reality that you have. And so therefore, if we want to be able to deal with some of these issues, we have to be honest that the issue actually exists. Stop telling people that you don't see colour. Stop telling people it's not that bad. Stop telling people you're overreacting, because it's damn annoying. It is basically racial gaslighting. And I, for one, if you remember that video that I did in my night dress with my head wrap at 12 midnight last year, you will know that I am not the one. You will know that I am not the one. For any child to feel, I've had friends on my WhatsApp sending me messages that they had to drive their children into school today. Why? Why? Why should we have to? Because England lost a flipping match and 3 black boys happened to take the penalties and they missed. And so what? And it doesn't make you think that it's partly these same black boys that you are quite willfully and comfortably calling niggers that got the team there in the first place? How many black players are in the Premier League? There was a time Arsenal was full of black players. The French team, full of black players. But yeah, when people are taking the knee, you feel that you have the audacity to say this has got nothing to do with football and start booing. But you see, I don't blame us. I don't blame people. It serves us right. Because really and truly, if they hate black players so badly, take them all out of the Premier League and see where British football would be. Take them all out of the damn Premier League and see where international football would be without some of these same people that you've now dubbed niggers, and it's going all over Snapchat and social media that today is lynch and nigger day. Really? I'd like you to try it. I'd like you to try it. And that is the reality of black people in this country. That we are so quick to downplay and deny is the reality. This is our reality. What you don't see, you see, this is open. But what you don't see is when we are in the office and we are being racially abused, when we're told that we have a chip on our shoulder, when we're told that we're playing the race card. And like I've said before, if you are holding the whole freaking deck and the only card you have given me is the race card, well, that's the only card I can damn well play. I don't actually have a choice. So we need to stop this denial that there is not a problem. There is a problem. There is a problem. I believe Boris Johnson said not too long ago that, Britain is not a racist country. You get to say that when you're black. We get to tell you. We get to tell you. We can break down to the covert and the overt, racism. We get to educate you. We get to school you. You know why? Because it's our reality. It's like a man telling a woman what it's like to live in a society as a woman. You don't get to tell us that. We get to tell you. The issue is, are you willing to learn and are you willing to be educated? Because the moment a 14-year-old child can say, I am not going to school because I perceive, not that she's experienced, I perceive that I am going to be treated differently and my life may be in danger. Let me tell you something, Great Britain, you have a problem. You have a problem. I'm reading stories of somebody being pushed in the Thames, a black person being pushed in the Thames. I'm reading stories of black people being attacked because of football. And we knew this from school, from in the 70s, that we were only considered and classed as British when we were performing well at sports. The moment you lose, you go back to being a nigger. We're used to it. When we are performing like the performing monkeys that we are, then it's fine. Then you're British. The moment you lose a title, then the African-born, the Jamaican-born, the Nigerian-born, so-and-so, immediately there is a disconnection between you and your Britishness. It's wrong. It is wrong. And I think as black people, we need to stop being accommodating. What do I mean by that? In the workplace, when racism is going on, stand up. It may cost you your job. Hence one of the reasons why I can't work for anybody in an office anymore. Not because I was difficult, but because I decided that enough was enough. I was not going to allow myself to be bullied, to be disrespected, to be maltreated. It was no longer acceptable that when I expressed any kind of dissatisfaction or distaste, I was immediately labelled as, you're aggressive. Not assertive, not passionate, you're aggressive. I will not allow that kind of racial gaslighting in my camp ever again. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It is absolutely unacceptable. I normally can handle racism and that kind of foolishness, but for my daughter to tell me that she does not want to go to school, and then when she got to the station where she could get a cab, they said there's been increased demand. She had to walk. She had to walk the rest of the way because black people, okay, anyone would think we're in the deep bloody South, are afraid for their children because England lost the European Cup. I mean, what kind of stupidity and foolishness is this? What kind of absolute nonsense is this? And yet when we as black people are saying that, listen, it is not as calm as you think it is, we are told, keep quiet. Well, I don't see colour. And what I find the most infuriating is when you are a person who is not of colour, being educated by a person of colour, you are still standing by what you think you know. Let me tell you, if you're one of such people, you are part of the problem. You are part of the problem. The skin that we have, it is just casing. You would be surprised what goes on underneath. I did a genetic DNA test, and I can say it now because I shared it with my family. I am 36% Italian genetically. Do I look bloody Italian to you? Do I look Italian to you? But genetically, that is what I am. Some of you white people who are so racist and so retarded and so stupid in your views and being unaccepting of other people, you're probably more bloody Ghanaian than I am. How about that? All this is just casing. It's just packaging. Whether it comes in a white package or a yellow package or a brown package, it's just packaging. It means nothing. So the person that you're so free to call a nigger, and you're probably more black than I am. How about that? But my point is, it's about time people are educated. It's about time that we take the responsibility to school people and don't allow it to, people to slide and say, well, I don't want to say anything because they will think I have a chip on my shoulder. When you look at my broad shoulders, do I look like I have a chip on either one of them? With me, you will go to school. I will not stand for it. I will not make excuses for it. No part of racism is cute. And if you're that stupid to stand by and allow people to behave like that, you are part of the problem. Every white person should lose that very irritating phrase of, I don't see colour. See it. Because not to see it means you don't see me. Not to see it means you don't see my difference. See my difference, but respect it. I don't want to be Indian. I don't want to be Asian. I want to be me. And I come with a difference. It doesn't make me better than you. It doesn't make me more beautiful than you. But it certainly doesn't make me less human or less in need of respect. It's unacceptable. I shouldn't have to be sitting here worrying or wondering how it's going to be for my daughter to get on the bus to come home in 2021. And when George Floyd was murdered, we're saying, oh, things have changed. And you have idiots like Candace Owen that help facilitate the racism by being blind and being a coconut. Let none of us be accused of that, because this is really a problem. It's a serious problem. I had a message from my daughter, messaging me, and it's on the other post that's on there. How can she say to me, well, Mum, at least I've not been called a monkey yet? Why should Isabel expect to be called a monkey? Because of football. And we don't think there's a problem in this country. Come on now. Something is not right and something really does need to be done. It's wrong. And if people want to help, start to call this behaviour out. Call it out when nobody else is watching. Don't call it out because you're going to get brownie points. Don't call it out because your black friends are watching. Call it out because it's wrong. Call it out because it's not right. Call it out because when you are allowing racism, the society doesn't just become difficult for us, it becomes difficult for you too. Because when people decide not to think outside the box, to be as hateful as you are, that's when people start to attack each other and do all kinds of things that is unbecoming of any civilized society. Africans, keep out of the racism argument if you have not been brought up, been raised here, or cannot understand it. And I say this because we don't need the messages diluted. Unless you have lived in England as a black person, you will not understand racism. You can't understand racism from an arm's length perspective. It doesn't work. You have to speak to people. You have to speak to people like me, that as a child of 8, I'm told you can't come in my house because my dad doesn't like black people. Or the fact that your white friends are allowed to enter into a home of another child, but you have to stand at the door. Until you have had those kind of experiences, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me because you don't know what it is like. Thankfully, some of us, that those experiences didn't tarnish us to the point where we hate white people or we hate people who are not black. Because I am in some of these black groups on social media, and there is a hatred in some people, not all of them. But you can just hear, like, someone will put up a post, should we trust white people? And people, oh, hell no, you can't trust those people. That is the society that has been created. That is the society that has been created. Can you blame people? No, you can't. Because they are talking about their lived experience. The problem that we have is when we're trying to tell you about our lived experience, you're saying it's not that bad. How dare you? And with what authority do you determine that our lived experience is not that bad? How dare you? It's like me telling somebody who has been a victim of domestic violence saying, well, it's not that bad. Was I the one facing the blows in the house? I don't get to determine how bad it is when I haven't walked that walk, when it has not been my lived experience. I don't have the luxury of even having an opinion. You can't go there. How many of you have had to talk to your children? I'm having somebody on my Facebook, one of our friends, saying they're having to talk to their daughter about the N-word because she's going to hear it and she has to have it explained to her. How old is that child? If I'm not mistaken, Derek, if you're watching this, your daughter can't be more than 9. And yet this is what we are having to deal with. So if you are watching this and you're not black like me, that phrase, you don't see colour, lose it. Don't you dare come out with, it can't be that bad. Don't you dare say it's being blown out of all proportion. Don't you dare use David Beckham's situation, an effigy of him being burnt, being the same as racism. His kids were never at risk. Our children are at risk. Go onto social media, be it Snapchat, whatever, and see the number of posts where black people are being called niggers. Go and count. Go and count. That you get different points if you spit on a nigger. Then you get additional points if you slap a nigger. But the ultimate is to lynch a nigger. And somehow this is not a problem. Somehow we're overreacting. And when are we supposed to determine that we overreacted? After we've been attacked or before? After I have to worry about my daughter being, able to come home from school or before? You don't get to tell me what it's like because we are having the lived experience. I was born and raised in England. I was born in Ilford. I know what it was like in the 70s. What were some of the names we were called? Sambo, Jungle Bunny, Coon. What were the other names? Black nigger, monkey, rubber lips. What else? What weren't we called? We were kids. We were kids. I didn't know I was different until I went to school. Then I was like, oh, I see. Those are our lived experiences. Does it get any better? No. This is what happens. I actually didn't mean to talk this long, but it is what it is. What changed was the law changed. The law said you are no longer allowed to call people certain names. But what the law cannot do is legislate for what is in a man's heart. That's the one area that the law has got no jurisdiction and no power. So what happens? People then know what the framework is in terms of being able to operate under the radar of racism and know how to behave. But racism of itself has not changed. Because if it has changed, then what you're telling me is what we are seeing on social media and on the news is a figment of our imagination. Because what you're seeing on the news is what happens in our workplaces. But it happens in a way where it can't be articulated. Because people don't understand the nuances around racist talk and racist behaviour. So when we're trying to go to HR and say we are being racially abused in the workplace and it is affecting our mental health, that's when you'll be further gassed into, are you sure it's not just your imagination? Are you sure it's not just you? And that's the problem. And we are having to prove that we are being racially abused. That is our reality. okay? That is what we go through. So if you happen to be black and a woman as well, it's even worse. It is tough because you have the image of the angry black woman. You can't even be upset. I remember an incident at work where this colleague of mine, I was senior to her because I was a manager there. She was obsessed with me. Everything I did seemed to be her business. And one day she decided to be her usual self and she screamed at me. I took myself out of that situation. I never lose my temper at work. And I sat at the opposite side of the office and there she was screaming. Guess who got pulled up on it? Guess who got pulled into the office and got pulled up on it? And even though there were witnesses, what was said was, well, at the end of the day, you are quite intimidating. I mean, really? I'm intimidating. Yeah, I wasn't the one screaming and shouting, but what happened? I mean, gosh, the usual happened. This woman started to cry and, obviously, look at me, this tall, big black woman. I'm so frightening. I got into trouble for that. But you want to hear the joke? That lady's married to a black man. Her husband's Nigerian. And these are some of the things that we went through in the workplace. Because this particular woman, every woman of colour that she worked with had problems with her. Every last one of them. I wasn't the first. I don't know if I was the last. But those are the things that we have to deal with. Those are our realities. That people assume that because somebody's got mixed race children, they're not racist. Really? I could tell you a thing or two. Because some people are inherently racist. I remember a girl that used to be a friend of mine. I remember applying for a job as a head of customer service for a construction company. Now, customer service is my field. Everything was fine. I was told that I was the best thing since sliced bread. I was told I'm the person that they're looking for, yada, 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 until they went and looked on my profile on LinkedIn. All of a sudden, that job was no longer available. This girl wouldn't take my calls. I had to now go through another agent pretending I wasn't me, and miraculously this girl was available. And I said to her, is there a problem? I noticed you've just been on my LinkedIn profile and you can just see my little black face there. And all of a sudden the job is no longer available. This happened about 4 years ago. 4 years ago. This friend of mine, in quote, she was married to a black man, has mixed race children, came up with the most vacuous, most unacceptable, racist piece of nonsense. And I have never spoken to her since. Oh, it's my imagination. I wasn't qualified. Have you ever had my CV in your possession to know what I'm qualified for and what I'm not qualified for? Oh, well, a lot of agencies do that. The jobs aren't even available. And because I run an agency, I'm like, darling, you run an agency for lower, end of the scale in terms of staff. I do head of service work. So therefore, you cannot compare the kind of agency you're running to the kind of post I would be applying for. She wouldn't even consider that it may have been because of race. Anything but that, anything to accept that I might just be right. And she's got mixed race children and she will only date black men. I'm just keeping it real here. And these are some of the issues that we face. The moment you speak up, oh, then you're being racist as well. No, darling, I'm telling you what reality is. And if we don't speak about this without being gaslit, we are not able to deal with this issue and deal with it effectively. There is a problem in this country when it comes to racism. There is a problem. It is unacceptable. And for as long as we keep lying to ourselves that it's not a problem, it will continue. For one, I am sick of it. I should not have to be worrying why my daughter is afraid of going to school because of bloody football. Because of football. And the joke of it is, I'm in a group, I'm not going to say what the group is, predominantly black Africans, and somebody in the group said that they were supporting Italy, and the person was accused of all sorts, got a mouthful of abuse. They were called, only a fool would not support England. We support you and this is what we get. And this is why, when I do talks on racism and colorism, what have you, I always say, listen, the truth of the matter is you're as British as you're allowed to be. That's the reality. You can feel British. You can be born here and raised here like myself. But unfortunately, there will always be a vast majority, and they are not in the minority, a vast majority of people who are quick to remind you, you're not British. Take from that piece of information and do with it what you will. But I, for one, I am disgusted, but I'm not surprised because I've lived it. I have been able to extricate myself from it for my own mental health. I've had to come out of it. I don't work in offices anymore. I predominantly did local authority work. I don't do it because I'm tired of, oh, can you come into the office for a minute, Dilys? And can you do this a minute, this? And you are quite intimidating. I was even told that because I'm tall. So what am I supposed to do? Break my legs and walk on my knees into the office? It's too much. I pray that everybody's child will be safe. I pray for those of you whose children are not black, that you educate your children. Because what we see is a failure of parental guidance, a failure of parents teaching their children what is the right and the right way to behave. Parents who have failed their children, who didn't do better for themselves and therefore couldn't do better for their kids, who are perpetuating this foolishness. And when you look at the fact that London in this time is very, very much a multicultural society, only on the surface, in terms of thinking and in terms of attitude, nothing has changed. Because you see these people jumping up and sharing things on their social media about lynch a nigger, spit on a nigger, slap a nigger. They're at work today. They're at work today. Some of them are your managers. Some of them are your subordinates. Some of them are people that work in your canteens. Some of them are Uber drivers because they will put on the facade of respectability. But they were on the TV last night. They are all around. They are all around us. And it's about time people started to educate themselves and stop lying to yourselves that it's not happening, that it's not really, racism in this country isn't a thing. Stop lying to yourselves. Because it very much is a thing. So guys, that's all I wanted to say. That for certain reasons, I don't really want to go as deep as I would like. But, I've said enough. I'll just read out a couple of your comments. Failure of parental guidance. That is so true. Thank you, sis. That's Kakra. This thing is so exhausting. McKee, so well spoken. God bless you, sis. Liz says that she gets the intimidating part too. She stands at 6'1". Yeah, I mean, the moment you're tall and you're very tall, you're very powerful, I mean, what am I supposed to do? Oh, God help us. Really, God help us, because this is not good. Genevieve says she's in tears. I'm not ashamed to say I did have a lump in my throat when I read Isabel's message this morning. Anyway. Jocelyn says, my adult daughter has to work from home this week just to be safe. I mean, it's ridiculous. Caroline says, my God, it's just disgusting. Yep, you've known Isabel since she was a baby. Caroline used to work she was a manager of the nursery that Isabel was in. Anne says, in the UK, I've had to get off buses and I've had to even avoid public transport in some areas because I've been afraid of a group of white boys and their aggressive mannerisms toward the black people on the bus. UK has a long, long way to go. Imagine growing up in this. Unfortunately, Anne, I don't even have to imagine. This is my reality. This is many of us our reality. Jennifer says, heartbreaking. Dilys, always our voice. You speak so eloquently. Thank you. God bless you. I just try and speak the truth. I won't hide. I won't pretend that it's not happening just because I can handle it. Many people are not handling it. When George Floyd was murdered, I couldn't handle it. You saw that video that went viral. I realized that I had suppressed 40-something years of racial abuse and didn't realize how it had affected me emotionally and mentally. And I had to let it out. I think I even did a show on it, about racism and giving people space to speak about the racial abuse that they have faced and speak about it so that we can begin the healing process. It's terrible. Every abuse is bad. I don't see why people think that racial abuse somehow doesn't affect people psychologically. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. Sputnik says, it's sad we can't be flowers with simple multiple colours. Great topic, Dilys. God bless you, Sputnik. Sputnik is an amazing Is it cinematographer? Or have I made up that word? But yeah, go and check him out. I don't know. It's tiring. I looked at my phone. I saw all the messages on my post. I thought, look, I've got work to do. I didn't want to get on social media. And I thought, you know what? I have to thank everybody for your support. I couldn't do it one by one. But it is what it is. Let's start to take individual responsibility and call this behaviour out when we see it, whether it's in the workplace, whatever. And you know what? With every battle, it may cost you something. It may cost you your job. It's cost me the fact that I don't work in an office anymore. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. It may cost you something, but for as long as you're silent, you are also helping to feed the beast as well. So black people, you have to call it out. I'm not saying that anyone has to be violent before anybody dares misconstrue what I'm saying. I've never had to be violent. Just open up your mouth and say, I'm sorry, this is wrong. And no, I don't have a chip on my shoulder. And no, I'm not pulling the race card. Remember, you hold the whole deck. So guys, I'm going to go off now. It's exhausting. But thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you guys. And I'm sure I'll be back at some point. God bless you guys. Thank you very much.